Hola amigos, ¿qué tal? Stuart here from Spain Speaks with a Spain news update, and Spain is starting to get back to normal after what was a massive week for the tourism sector in this country, but more about that in just a moment. Firstly, a big thanks to all of the people that left comments on the last video. Lots of comments, lots of debate happening there as usual. Thanks to people that supported the channel through a donation or by buying me a beer or a coffee. Many thanks for that. Thanks to people that bought merchandise, and a big thanks to my patrons on Patreon for your ongoing support. Now, let's get into the news. Easter Monday today, and as I said, it has been a massive week for the tourism sector here in Spain. In fact, in many parts of the country, back to pre-pandemic levels of tourists. As we can see here, traffic jams and full house signs. Easter week leaves pandemic behind. The good times are over. Goodbye Easter. It's back to work. Many of Spain's roads saw heavy traffic jams this Sunday, although the special Easter week traffic operation is still open until midnight. Not only roads, the Spanish air sector has registered movement almost at the level of Easter 2019. A total of 58,000 flights have been operated. Hotels, bars, flats and restaurants have also seen a significant increase this Easter compared to the previous 2 years. Many autonomous communities have almost 100% occupancy. So full house signs popping up in accommodation in various autonomous communities around the country as Spain's tourism sector recovers to pre-pandemic levels. And is 2022 going to be the year of a definitive recovery in that sector? Time will tell, but it's looking good so far. Now, as we all know, Spain's indoor mask wearing mandate is disappearing this week. You will no longer have to wear a face mask in the majority of indoor public spaces, but there are some exceptions. And as we can see here, masks will remain compulsory in all public transport and pharmacies. The Minister of Health, Carolina Darias, has clarified that the mask will continue to be obligatory in all public transport without exception, as well as in health centres, services and establishments, including pharmacies. It will be compulsory inside health centres, services and establishments, that is to say in hospitals, health centres, blood transfusion centres, and it will be compulsory in pharmacies as health establishments are where vulnerable people go, said the minister in an interview with El País. So on public transport, in pharmacies and in other health centres, you will still need to wear a mask. But in the rest of indoor spaces in this country, it will be completely up to you whether you wear a mask or not. Now, we all know that high inflation is having a huge impact on the Spanish economy currently, and according to this headline, Spain is heading for the biggest wage devaluation in almost 40 years. Unless there is a last-minute surprise, Spanish wage earners are set to suffer the biggest devaluation of their salaries in recent history, with consumer prices set to remain 10% above last year's levels until at least July, and wages growing at a snail's pace. Spaniards' purchasing power will be severely eroded. If the predictions of the Bank of Spain, which estimates that 2022 will end with an average inflation rate of 7.6%, are fulfilled, and in addition wages grow by less than 4% this year, Spanish wage earners will suffer the greatest loss of purchasing power in almost 40 years. So there we go, terrible news for wage earners in this country. With the greatest loss of purchasing power in almost 40 years, a real possibility. Now, we all know that the hard right side of politics is on the rise in many European countries at the moment, France for example, and here in Spain the situation is no different. And tomorrow, in the autonomous community of Castilla and Leon, Spain's hard right party Vox will officially form part of the government there. And as we can see in this article from The Economist, Spain's hard-right Vox party joins a regional government. A day after Marine Le Pen reached the second round of France's presidential election, the regional parliament in Spain's Castilla and Leon approved the new government, the country's first to include Vox, a hard-right party. Visiting the region for the investiture vote, Santiago Abascal, Vox's leader, took time to tweet congratulations to Ms. Le Pen on a great result, saying France, like the rest of Europe, faced the choice between sovereignty and reindustrialization or progressivist globalization that is ruining us. So Mr. Abascal very quick to send a tweet to somebody that he no doubt looks up to, Ms. Le Pen, and congratulating her on a great result in those elections. And according to Mr. Abascal, the choice is fairly clear. You either vote for the extreme left or the extreme right. There's nothing in between. The Economist magazine then continued with their story on Vox and said that it is easy to see Vox as the renaissance of the far right that never disappeared even after Francisco Franco, Spain's dictator for nearly 40 years, died in 1975. Mr. Abascal calls the current government the worst in 80 years, that is, worse than Franco's. Vox wants to replace a law on gender-based violence with one on intra-family violence, turning the focus away from male perpetrators. It wants to recenter decentralize Spain, eliminating the 17 powerful regional governments like the one it has just joined in Castilla y León. This makes Vox radioactive to regional nationalists in places like Catalonia and the Basque Country. So the current government here in Spain, the coalition government led by Pedro Sánchez, the worst government that Spain has had, according to Mr. Abascal, in 80 years. And as we also saw, if Vox ever comes to power, it's goodbye to the autonomous communities. Now let's have a look at some of the comments from previous videos. One here from Scent Lover: people still smoke despite the non-smoking beaches. Ah, yes, Scent Lover, thanks for the comment, and obviously referring to something that we saw in yesterday's live stream about these new rules and regulations when it comes to beach use here in Spain. Apparently, different town halls around the country have introduced new rules and regulations when it comes to beach use, and no smoking on many beaches is one of these new rules. And maybe you're right, and it's going to be difficult to stop people smoking at the beach, even if there are rules in place. So we'll see how local governments control these non-smoking beaches over the summer months, and maybe they'll have to hire beach inspectors to make sure that people follow the rules. One here from Jake: do you think the Spanish government will change their mind on letting people from the United Kingdom stay for longer than 90 days? Do you think they will go back to letting people stay in Spain for 6 months rather than 3 months? Yeah, Jake, thanks for the comment. And if I had a euro for every time I've seen a similar comment on this channel asking about this 90-day rule, I'd be a rich man. But to be honest, I've got absolutely no idea if this 90-day rule is going to change or not. But what I will say is that the 90-day rule does not only apply to Spain, it applies for all of the Schengen countries. So I imagine if there's going to be any changes at all, they'll have to come from Brussels. But I could be wrong, and if you think that I am, please let me know in the comment section below. One here from Sandy: I live in northwestern US. My daughter's 2-bedroom apartment was $800 US a month, and at the end of the year was increased to $1,300 US. I think about 740 to 1,200 euros. So this problem is here too. And of course her salary did not increase by that percentage. Yes, Sandy, thanks for the comment, and obviously referring to something that I spoke about on the channel the other day with Johnny about the price of renting apartments in this country and just how expensive it is. And if you compare the cost of renting in a city like Madrid or Barcelona with the average salary, it's very, very difficult to do. Luckily for people renting here in Spain at the moment, the government has put a 2% cap on rent increases due to high inflation, and people whose rental contracts were up for renewal can't be slapped with a 10% increase. So tough times for people that are renting at the moment, not only here in Spain, but as you mentioned, in the United States as well. One here from Charlie: I vote for self-sufficiency in marijuana. Legalize clubs, tax it, keep the economy going. Not necessarily illegal either, if for own consumption, and no more than 2 plants. Yeah, Charlie, thanks for the comment, and I'm sure a lot of people would agree with you that Spain's current marijuana laws are too strict. There must be a way for the government here to do it better, considering the amount of illegal marijuana that is growing around the country. We saw the other day how a huge illegal cannabis crop of some 415,000 plants was destroyed by the Civil Guard, and there must be millions, if not billions of euros in tax revenue going begging. So Spain's current government, progressive for some things, but not when it comes to legalizing marijuana. And finally, one here from Scott: hello Stu, I had a similar problem with Sabadell trying to charge me for changing money post-Brexit. I'm now with Santander, which is free transfers and no charge for the account. Yeah, Scott, thanks for the comment, and thanks for telling us what you did when it comes to banks ripping people off here in Spain post-Brexit. We had a comment from somebody the other day telling us that the bank that his father uses here in Spain has doubled their fees since Brexit, and various other people have left comments on the channel complaining about the same thing. But the good news is that there are plenty of online banks operating currently in Spain that don't seem to charge any fees at all, and I imagine that that's the type of account that you have with Banco Santander. So if anybody else out there has noticed an increase in bank fees over the last few years or so, you know what to do: change banks. On that note, I'll wrap the video up. Questions and comments, please leave them in the section below. Debate the video out as you normally do. Give it a thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down if you didn't. I'll see you in the next one. Hasta luego.